Welcome to AINdebrief, where we take a deeper look at the most important or interesting aviation story of the past week with the AIN editor who covered it. I'm AIN News Editor Chad Trottvetter. This week, AIN Editor-in-Chief Matt Thurber discusses federal indictments against Debra Lynn Mercer-Erwin, the owner of Wright Brothers Aircraft Title and Aircraft Guaranty Corp, and also 7 others. The various charges raise an important issue regarding the responsibility borne by owner trustees when it comes to helping a non-U.S. citizen purchase an aircraft and register it in the U.S. This case also could have implications for other entities that provide similar owner trust arrangements. So, Matt, charges were unsealed about a week ago by the U.S. government that against the aircraft title company that also did owner trust for foreign owners. So what is the lawsuit? How did it start?
So it was on February 24th, the U.S. government unveiled an indictment against the owner of the trust company with some pretty serious charges. But what got a lot of attention was a pretty good report by WFAA-TV in Dallas. I'm not sure how they got tipped to what was going on, but on February 12th, they published a story titled "Foreign Ownership of Thousands of U.S. Aircraft Cloaked in Secrecy." And what they seemed to think was interesting was that a small East Texas town named Onalaska has more than 1,000 aircraft registered there, but there's no airport in Onalaska. Well, that's kind of a red herring because we in the aviation business understand that there are trustee relationships where a non-U.S. entity can purchase an airplane and work with a trust company to set up a trust to own the airplane and basically lease it back to the buyer so they can operate it. Now, the reason they do this is because foreign ownership of U.S. registered aircraft is not permitted. So that's why these trusts were created, so somebody from outside the U.S. could buy an airplane and operate an N-registered or U.S. registered airplane.
Yeah, and the N number is important because for maintenance, it's clearer for maintenance. It's also more accepted in places around the world, and also because it has a better pedigree when they go to sell it if it's U.S. registered.
Yeah, it's just easier to operate with a N registration. But anyway, that February 12th report from WFAA got the attention of federal prosecutor Ernest Gonzalez, assigned to the Eastern District of Texas, and he looked into it, and ultimately the result was a major investigation. And the indictments, which come after we had known that the founder and owner of Wright Brothers Aircraft Title and Aircraft Guaranty Corp was arrested last December in Oklahoma and moved to Texas. But we couldn't find out any official reason why she was arrested and what was going on. So this is kind of the first actual documentation of what's going on.
So what are the charges?
They're extensive. So the person who was arrested is Debra Lynn Mercer-Erwin. And according to WFAA, there was, I think, a total of 8 people arrested, including Mercer-Erwin's daughter, Kaylee Moffitt, who is an official for the companies also. But the charges are that not that they registered thousands of aircraft on behalf of foreign owners, which is perfectly legal, but the trustee, which is the actual owner of the airplane, allowed their airplanes that they're supposed to have control of to do a bunch of nefarious things like smuggle drugs. There was a lot of sales back and forth going on that were handled improperly and illegally. Just a whole bunch of things that the indictment lists as highly illegal activities. And what I thought was really interesting about this is I consulted with an aviation lawyer to try and understand what the indictment was about. And he helped me look at some FAA information that clarifies that if a trust company sets up one of these trusts for a foreign owner, the FAA still considers the trust company as the owner responsible for the operation of the aircraft and for full compliance with all FAA and other applicable regulations.
Is that reasonable? I mean, Bank of America also has thousands of aircraft under their trust, and some of the companies are owned by their U.S. owners, but they take it in trust through a bank, just for various reasons they have it in trust. Is that a reasonable assumption on the FAA's part?
I think that's a really good question, and something that I bet a lot of people think about, because you're right, there's tons of airplanes operated under these trust agreements. And the FAA points out that you're registering an airplane under a trust, and it has zero applicability to the operation. The trust does not designate or delegate the operation to some other entity. The trust requires that the trustee, the owner of the airplane, is responsible. But I mean, what if you're a leasing company and you lease an airplane to somebody? The leasing company is the owner and ultimately responsible. I mean, it puts a big burden on these trustees. And I'm probably not the only one wondering, do these trustees have an army of people out there watching their aircraft and making sure they're being operated correctly? And, to be fair, most owners of aircraft, especially business jets that cost a ton of money, don't want them operated in an illegal fashion. It just doesn't make sense.
Right. I would imagine that most of the people, the operators that have a trust aircraft, they want to do it the right way.
Exactly.
But then again, a trustee can't be there 24/7 to make sure that they're not, transporting illegal substances or anything.
Yep. I mean, that's very true, but it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. The indictment is full of a lot of allegations about improper activities, including that Wright Brothers Aircraft Title set up a Ponzi scheme that is kind of complicated, but it involved loans against escrow funds that were basically not escrow funds for real aircraft transactions, and then these funds went to line the pockets of the people involved. Those are the allegations, and it involves millions of dollars, and just adds to the whole mess that this situation is.
Yeah, this is a pretty complex. The legal document is pretty complex. I know I've looked at a lot of lawsuits over the years, and I can usually discern what's there. But I looked at this one, and I had a basic understanding, but it was very, very technical. I think there were 27 counts total. It was just a very complicated lawsuit.
Absolutely. I mean, just alone for offending aircraft transactions, as it's called in the indictment. There were 22 of those, and many of those involved aircraft that were registered under the trust and subsequently involved in fairly serious drug smuggling activities. There was one airplane that some people might remember seeing a YouTube video of a hawker being flown out of a dirt strip in the Guatemalan jungle and miraculously actually taking off. And this airplane was one of the trust airplanes registered to Aircraft Guaranty Corporation.
It seems that this is more targeted towards illicit activity than overall trust issues.
Yes, I mean, the indictment doesn't address the issue of whether or not this is how foreign nationals should be able to buy airplanes in the U.S., but it does bring up the point of these relationships between the trustee and the buyers and how they're properly monitored. Allegedly, according to the indictment, it's a pretty loosey-goosey situation.
Yeah, so we could see some changes in the industry as to how these aircraft are being monitored, I suppose.
Exactly. And then this also brings up another point that we haven't got much information on, but that is that when the government came in and arrested people and basically shut these companies down, there were transactions underway. Presumably some were legitimate transactions, money in escrow and airplanes tied up. And nobody from the government has said what's going on with these. There's got to be people out there who have money that's tied up in these transactions. And the only advice we've gotten so far is the International Aircraft Dealers Association sent a letter to its members to say, look, if you've got an airplane tied up in one of these transactions, talk to another title company and see if they can help you. And actually, the government has said that, or IADA did say that the government has offered a little bit of help to try to clear up some of these, but it's not a simple situation.
Yeah, that sounds like this is going to take several months, if not years, to untangle.
Exactly, but we'll keep an eye on it and keep our readers informed about what's going on.
All right. Is there any court dates set, any hearings or anything over the next couple of months?
Yep, nothing that we've seen yet.
So, okay. So we'll just keep our eyes open. And like you said, we'll let our readers know what's happening when we can find out. All right. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Chad.
Thanks for listening to AINdebrief. Another podcast episode will air next Friday. In the meantime, go to www.ainonline.com for the latest aviation news from AIN.